From beautiful Tampa Bay, Florida, welcome back to the 365 Flicks interviews with Miguel and Jose. Today, we have writer and filmmaker Mick Davis coming to us from Los Angeles, California. Mick directed the film Modigliani, one of the many films set to be a part of our 365 Flicks catalog. Mick, it's a pleasure to have you in the studio.
Pleasure to be here, boys.
How's it going over there?
It's probably a lot drier than it is there. I mean, can I swear during this interview?
Oh, yeah.
Just be yourself. You'll be all right.
Yeah, be yourself.
It's a lot fucking drier here than it is in Florida.
It's the 15th anniversary of Modigliani. What inspired you to make this film?
The real inspiration was when I was a kid, my father bought me a book, and the book was about the great painters of the 20th century. So Picasso and all those guys, and Modi. And when I read the story of Modigliani, I could relate to the guy because he was sick as a child, and I had asthma, so I was sick as a child. I wanted to be an artist originally, and he was an artist. And there were problems in his family, financial things like that. You know, they were struggling, and we were struggling. So there was a lot in common, and he never left me. He stayed with me, and I got intrigued, and I read more and more. I bought more books. I studied him. And then when I made the decision I wanted to go make movies, I made myself the promise that someday I would make a movie about Modigliani.
All right. And amazingly enough, Modigliani got accepted to the Toronto International Film Festival. How was that experience?
Yeah, that was surreal. That was Dali-esque.
Dali-esque.
That was more Dali than Modi. I quite remember I got the call in LA early in the morning, and it was Karine, lovely Philippe Martinez, the sister of my producer. And she said, Mick, we got in, and we are the opening movie. And I was blown away because, you know, Toronto's no small festival.
No, it's not.
And then when we got there, it was, you know, I can't even remember, 1,500 people, 10,000. It was like fucking Colosseum in Rome.
Oh, wow.
Just a massive crowd, and it was great. It was just great. And people loved the movie, and that was, great memory.
Wow, that sounds great. So what made you decide to cast Andy Garcia, and how was it working with him?
Well, it's no secret that, and Andy obviously knew this, it's no secret that originally I had developed the script for Al Pacino. You didn't notice?
No, I didn't know that.
All right. So what happened was this. I'd written a script, and Al and I met, and Al fell in love with the script. But then Al had seen a play on Broadway about Modigliani, and it was written by Dennis McIntyre. So Al went to Fox, and Fox said, let's buy the play, and we'll put Mick's script and the play together and let Mick write a new draft. So I did, but I didn't feel good about it because my Modigliani was sexy, romantic, lively, full of energy, and living on the edge. And this new version that I was doing with Al was darker and more about sculpting than about painting, and more about his other lover, Beatrice, instead of Jeanne, which for me was the great story. And so we developed for a couple of years, maybe 3 years. Al came to Paris. We went to Modigliani's atelier, where Al walked up the stairs and he said, I was destined to do this. And then 3 years later, he you know, he just, you know, he wanted to, because I love Al. He's a wonderful guy and he's a wonderful actor. But then he reached out to me because the option on my script was about to finish. And I got a call from his manager and they said, let's renew the option. And I said, I've got a feeling that Al's never going to make this movie, so I have to say no. So not a lot of people pass on Al Pacino, but I had to, because to me, more important was Modigliani than anything. And when I passed on Al, the word got around town in Hollywood that the script was available. And I got a call from a mutual friend of mine and Andy's, a lovely guy from Puerto Rico, a really good director. And he said to me, Andy would like to meet you. And I went to this guy's house, and I'd never met Andy before. And Andy walked into the house wearing a brown corduroy suit and in this big collared shirt, dressed like Modigliani. And even when we were shaking hands, I said, you don't have to say anything, you're the guy. And that was it.
Wow. Yeah. You know, I think the Andy Garcia did a great job in the film. And me and Miguel were talking about it earlier, how he really made you, you know, root for him throughout the entire film, and you kind of feel for him. And I think Andy Garcia did a really good job with that.
Oh, yeah. Not a lot of people take a pass on Al Pacino.
Yeah, yeah. I had no idea that was a thing.
Yeah, but I think it was meant to happen.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It was meant to happen because Andy did something that I dreamed about all through the years of my writing the script. He did something I dreamed about, which was he brought this larger-than-life guy to the screen, you know? And so there are no regrets at all. I'm delighted.
All right. So how do you feel the movie turned out after all of that, and what was your feeling watching it 15 years later?
Well, I haven't watched it. I haven't watched it 15 years later, but if you're asking me how it turned out, listen, you know, I hate to quote Picasso, but Picasso said, no painting is ever finished. And I think the same applies to movies. Every director, I think, looks back at their work and thinks, fuck, man, if only I had another week, I could have done this, or maybe I shouldn't have put that song in there, or I did this or did that. And so I look back at it and I say, listen, it was my dream to make the movie. I got the perfect actor. The entire cast delivered the story that I wanted to tell. I had a great producer who gave me the freedom to make the movie I wanted to make, which is the all-important thing. And so if I was to watch the movie today, you know, I'd probably, I mean, people send me clips all the time, you know, like fans of the movie or whatever, and they'll send clips. This is my favorite moment. This is my favorite moment. And when you put all the clips together, it's almost the whole movie. So I kind of see the whole movie anyway, even when I don't go looking at it. You know.
So you portrayed the real life beef between Modigliani and Pablo Picasso. Are there any rivalries that you have with other filmmakers similar to the ones that you portrayed in the film?
With filmmakers?
Yeah.
Or any other artist?
Or anyone.
Oh, artists. Okay. Have I ever had? I've lots of beefs when I lived in Glasgow. I'm from Scotland, remember, and I support Celtic. So yeah, I've seen a few of those when I was young. Artistically, I've had differences with people because I think that when you want to make movies like this, which is not easy to make. Movies like this are never easy to make. Now, today, they're almost impossible. In fact, they are impossible. So you're already on an almost an impossible journey. And you come across people who want to shoot you down for trying to do something like this. and they say to you, what the fuck are you doing? Why don't you do a movie about, you know, Superman meets fucking Godzilla, or a bank heist in Miami, or some other piece of shit. But that's not who I am. And at the time when Philippe jumped on to make this movie for us, it was funny because I had dinner with Oliver Stone in London at the time. And I'd heard the rumor from Val Kilmer, who's a friend of mine and a friend of Philippe's, that Oliver Stone was going to make a movie about Modigliani. And of course, Oliver Stone is Oliver Stone. And I thought, I'm fucked. Because if Oliver Stone goes and makes the movie before me, it's going to break my heart. And then on top of that, I heard that Martin Scorsese was developing a movie about Modigliani. So my head was spinning by this point. And then Philippe Martinez came and saved my ass and said, come on, let's go make your movie. So in terms of beef, artistically, I guess not so much. Confrontationally, yes, I've had a confrontation with Antonio Banderas.
Ooh, really?
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, it's not a confrontation because I love Antonio. He's another wonderfully talented actor. But what happened was, years before I made Modi, I had another script, Paganini, about the violinist, the 18th century violinist, Paganini, and another great hero of mine. And Antonio jumped on board to do it. He read it and said, I've got to make this movie. And I never forget sitting in his house here in LA, and his agent was there. And Melanie Griffith was there. And the guy who was going to direct the movie was Shekhar Kapoor, who you may be familiar with from the movie Elizabeth, right? Yeah. The Academy Award nominated movie, which I did some work on for my friend Shekhar. However, we're all sitting there having dinner talking about how to make this movie, and Antonio had just been offered Zorro.
Okay.
Oh.
And I thought, all right, Al is taking forever to make Modi. Antonio's now going to go do Zorro. Somebody's fucking jinxing me here. So I pointed the finger at his agent, who is no longer his agent since years. But I pointed the finger at his agent. I think I had a couple of beers at that point, so I was doing my usual Scotsman, And I said, what the fuck are you doing, man? You're going to send him off to play Zorro, a guy with a mask, when he could be playing Paganini, the greatest violinist in history. So this guy and me, we got at it, and Antonio tried to jump in with his beautiful Spanish passion, And I think I said something like, just fuck, Antonio, it's fucking mine and his argument. Stay out of it. But anyway, he went and made Zorro, and we never did Paganini, but I did Paganini on stage. So anyway, and I got Andy. Nice. Everything worked out fine.
And it all worked out. And funny enough, Superman versus Godzilla is actually in the pipeline from DC. I just saw the tweet. Funny enough that you mentioned that.
Oh, it's not. I would rather wash dishes than make that movie. So there you go.
Modigliani is set in 1919 Paris, exploring the bohemian lives of such artists as Picasso, Cocteau, Jacob, Soutine, and developing the movie, you mentioned how these were the rock and roll stars of their time. How do you think celebrities and stars have changed since the time of Modigliani?
Yeah, well, they've gone downhill, haven't they? They're a fucking disaster. It's honestly, don't get me started. I'm glad.
Oh, that's why we asked. We want to get you started.
Because I would probably Vino Veritas. Well, those guys were rock stars, and the incredible thing is, most of the actors today are going to be forgotten next week. Some of them will be remembered forever. The Brandos, the Pacinos, the De Niros, the Meryl Streeps. They'll be remembered. The rest of them, they're just, they're vanilla ice cream, Once you finish the carton, you don't even know what you ate. And back then you had Modigliani, Picasso, Diego Rivera, Soutine, Max Jacob, all of those guys, Gertrude Stein, in the same cafe. 100 years later, we're still talking about every one of them. And not only that, but people are paying hundreds of millions of dollars for their work. So I think that answers the rock and roll of that period versus today. The only other period that is reminiscent to that for me is the 60s, when you had Jim Morrison, John Lennon, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Bob Dylan, when you had that crowd, and they were all hanging out at the Whiskey A Go-Go and Sunset. So that was it. But today now, I mean, nobody learns their trade as a musician. They go on fucking, what's that, American Idol? Suddenly they're musicians, or they do these costume movies and make a lot of dough, don't get me wrong, but nobody remembers them. That's why actors want to make movies like that, because they can look back and say, at least I did something from my heart, not from my pocket.
Yeah, absolutely. Were there any memorable moments on set that you can tell us about?
Yeah, there was a lot. Yeah.
Give me something that really sticks out to you, like the first thing that you can think of.
Probably one of the most memorable moments. There was a buddy of mine from Scotland, and he flew himself to Romania, and he paid for his own hotel and everything else because he wanted to come and watch the movie being made, and also he wanted to help me in any way he could. And he came on set that first day, and Andy had been in his trailer, and suddenly everybody went quiet, and there was this backlight as Andy was walking in the door, and I saw the silhouette with the hat and the clothes, and I looked at my friend and I went, I'm directing Andy Garcia. And as soon as he walked on the floor, there was a look in his face. I think we both had that same feeling, that it was almost like, it's not so much the presence of Modigliani's spirit or whatever, but we were in this beautiful old house, and we were suddenly back in 1919, and we just forgot everything and suddenly channeled the guy. And that point was, that's probably the most remarkable moment. But there was, dozens of others. There's a scene in the movie where there's a guy in a cake.
Yeah,
naked
yeah. I remember that scene.
Right? And we couldn't find a guy to fucking do it. We kept. I was going around begging people, do you think you could do that? Fuck off. I'm not going to make it in a cake. There was this one dude said, I'll do it. I'll never forget the look. The look on, I kept the cake a secret, how it was going to look from all of the actors, because I wanted their response. I wanted it to be a natural response. So when they brought the cake in with the guy there, I remember I was sitting behind, I'm sitting at Village Video and I'm behind camera and I'm looking, and even Andy's face, the fucking shock was unbelievable. The only person who responded positively or was all over the place was the actor playing Max Jacob, Udo Kier, the great German actor. He was so fucking excited to see this guy done up as a cake. I'll give you one. Oh God, I had it and then I've forgotten it.
That was a great scene. Yeah.
Yeah. One. I'll give you one more. There's a scene. When they unveiled the paintings.
Oh yeah.
And Andy had to fly back to LA for his daughter's graduation, I believe. So before he left, I said, Andy, come and do me a favor. And I got my sound guy to record Andy saying When I know your soul, I will paint your eyes. I kept that recording a secret, and I waited until the moment when the canvas dropped. The camera was on Jean, and then I gave my sound guy the nod, and he played that in loudspeakers for the actress. And she didn't know it was going to happen. And she's a very emotional, she's a wonderful actress. She has this Meisner technique, which is Andy's, and it's very internal. And suddenly Andy's voice is playing boom loud. When I know your soul, I'll paint your eyes. And she just let go. And I only did one take for that because I couldn't do it a second time, you know?
Yeah,
no, wow.
Yeah, that was a powerful scene. This movie's so immersive, and one of the themes that I got out of it was that art is hard. You know, like that's what I got out from because you don't just see Modigliani's struggle. You see the struggle of his fellow peers, like the other artists, even Picasso, who was, he wasn't at the top of his game yet in this movie. He was steadily going up there, but you could tell that art is just brutally hard for anyone, for any artist wanting to get to that level, that transcendent level,
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, those days they struggled. They struggled because, there was an acceptance, there was a conventional acceptance of the predecessors, whatever that was, if it was Impressionism or whatever it was. So a bunch of new guys come along with new ideas. You know how it is. It's the same with music,
Oh, yeah.
The Beatles came along and people were like, they'll last a week. Ha ha.
Speaking of the Beatles, nice Honor bass back there, by the way.
Yeah, I've got two.
Ah, nice.
I'm doing the life story of John Lennon's last producer, so that's
really
cool.
My connection, yeah.
That's awesome. I'm currently reading. I just started Many Years From Now, the Paul McCartney autobiography. I'm pretty excited about it. It's pretty good.
Cool.
Do you find it harder to write characters that are real versus characters that you make up?
No, not really. It's much the same for me. I think it's about writing characters that you love. Even if you love to hate them, you still love them. I'm not a fan of Picasso, but I loved writing him. And there are other scripts that I write that the characters are fictional, right? I mean, fictitious. And they're not, they're just the same to me, I mean, there are people that are special. Modi was special. Paganini was special. That's a little bit elevated for me, but ultimately, no, I get the same because it's still someone that has to be played in film, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's like I like, whether it's I've did a few movies with Mickey Rourke, so whether it's like a Mickey Rourke character or whether it's a real guy like Modigliani, the actor still has to play the role. And it depends on that actor and what they can bring to it, That's really what it is, It's the casting of it,
You have a lot of writing credits under your belt. In your opinion, what's the most important thing about storytelling?
Well, you've got to love doing it. And I think that if I ever talk to young writers, sometimes you get sad because you hear them say that they want to write for what the audience wants today, right? So a lot of kids will want to go write, I want to try and write something like Superman or something like that. Yeah. And instead of for me, writing a character is connected to your soul. So I always try and say, look, write something that you feel inside because it's going to show on the page. If you're a gun for hire, it's never going to be the same as being connected to you. It's never going to be the same. You may do a decent job and make a nice check, but it's never the same. And then when it comes to, I always start with character. You know, I usually always start with character. I always think about a character in the situation, and then that situation becomes a plot. But it's always driven by the character.
Is there any other figure in history that you've always wanted to portray in the big screen?
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, I'm a fan of Oscar Wilde.
Ooh.
And at some point, I want to do my version of Dorian Gray, which, you know, I'll keep to myself. Just somebody steals the idea. But I want to do a new kind of Dorian Gray because I'm a big fan of Oscar Wilde. You know, people that inspire me are people like Charles Dickens, Baudelaire, George Bernard Shaw, people like that in terms of writing. But Dickens, for me, was the greatest storyteller of all. So in terms of historical characters, I've been lucky, you know. I'd like to bring Paganini to the big screen at some point, you know, sexy violinist, the Mick Jagger of that period. So we'll see what happens, but, you know.
Who would you cast as Paganini?
Well, it wouldn't
Today.
be Antonio Banderas, that's for sure. Well, funny enough, the very first choice I ever had for him was Daniel Day-Lewis. But that's too late now. That was 30 years ago. I think Robert Downey would be an amazing Paganini.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a good casting. Wow.
That would be great.
I also have a script that I want to do about the life of Dylan Thomas, the poet. The Welsh poet who died in the Chelsea Hotel. It's about his last days. And that also could be Downey, you know, because Downey is just so wonderful, isn't he? I mean, he really is. He's up there with the De Niro's and those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, he managed to do the superhero thing, but still able to kind of jump between the superhero thing and real serious art house stuff, you know, which is pretty
I mean, that was the genius of the casting, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, to put him in as Iron Man, you know, I don't think there's a single person in the whole of fucking Hollywood who would have thought of that.
No, that was a great one.
Yeah.
It worked. Nobody thought it was going to work, but it worked. Same with Heath. I feel like Heath Ledger.
Yeah.
You know, God rest it. Yeah.
He was wonderful.
Yeah, he was wonderful. Yeah.
You know what? A lot of people didn't think he'd do a good job being the Joker, but he surprised a lot of people with that.
I think now, I think if you ask anybody about the Joker, they would tell you that it's Heath Ledger more than Jack Nicholson, I'm sure.
Yeah, nowadays I think so too.
Yeah.
Oh no, go ahead.
No, I agree. I think Heath did for the Joker that Downey did for Iron Man.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So I know you touched upon this earlier, but how do you feel about Hollywood and the film industry today, where they're doing more Superman and Batman movies rather than doing promoting art house movies like Modigliani?
But, listen, they can do whatever they want. They're in charge of their own lives, their own destinies. It's about money. It's about money, and people want to go see this stuff. You know, cultures change, times have changed. Things are very political now, which is kind of creeped into you know the workplace, the material, the medium. But you know, look, I don't live in hope that they're going to come around someday and wake up and say, fuck, what were we thinking? Why are we doing Batman when we should be doing Modigliani 2, the sequel, you know? That's not going to happen. But it's going to take certain people out there with the taste for this kind of stuff to say, look, I've got the money. I want to go make that movie with that director and that script, because that story has to be told. And it really is about that, you know? It's about people being bold enough to say, I don't give a shit about, you know, how many theaters we're supposed to play to. I want to tell that story. And that's really what it comes down to. So Hollywood is tough. It's very tough. You have to go outside the town, I think, to try and make that kind of movie happen, you know, as I did with Philippe.
And that is kind of what we're going to start doing here at 365 Flicks. We're going to be promoting more independent movies. We're going to be having a lot of new avenues for young filmmakers and actors that want to break into more independent mediums, and make sure to stay tuned for all of that information on 365flicks.com. You touched up on this earlier, and you mentioned how Al Pacino was almost going to play Modigliani, but there were also some rumors about Al Pacino right now is considering producing a new film about Modigliani. How do you feel about that?
Well, I've heard this rumor quite a few times. I don't know. I think, you know, after we did Modi, I met a friend of ours years after, and he says, "You're Mick Davis?" I said, "Yes." He goes, "I have to tell you, Al Pacino told me his one big regret was never playing Modigliani." So I think that this has stayed with him, because Al is almost 80 years old now. And I think that Al probably wants to do at least one artistic type movie or about an artist before he stops making movies and retires, whatever. So, and Modi was always in his mind. He always saw himself as Modi. But there was also rumors he was going to play Dali as well.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. And listen, good luck to him. If he does do it, that's fine by me, because it means that somebody is putting up the money to make to tell a story, which I think will always have legs, you know. I mean, there will be another Modigliani movie down the road, whether it's Al or someone else. It will never be as good as ours.
That's true.
But there will be more, you know, for sure.
Speaking with 365 Flicks founder Philippe Martinez, who actually produced Modigliani, we asked him how it was to work with you, and he stated, "Mick is a Scottish pain, but inside he has a beautiful soul, and working with him on this film has been one of the privileges of my career." How do you feel about this?
Well, that's coming from him. It's very, very touching, because I know what he's like. He's a tough dude, but he's fair, and also he's an artist. You know, he is an artist, and you know, he put up the money to make this movie, and he gave me the free rein to do it. And, you know, I used to say, we're going to make this beautiful madness. I always called Modigliani a beautiful madness. Andy says that to this day when anyone asks him. So Philippe made that happen. But the one thing more than anything is, in terms of Philippe, is when my father died after we made this movie, and Philippe flew to Scotland, to Glasgow, to pay his respects to a man he'd only met maybe once for 10 minutes, but because he cared about me, and that's the kind of guy he is. So, you know, that sums up the man for me. To do that was very, very special. And that shows the artist that he is. He's you know, he's got this very tough exterior, Philippe, you know?
Yeah.
That chewing on that cigar, perpetual cigar, and making the funny remarks and the cheeky remarks and stuff. But inside there's a marshmallow there, you know? And it's a very beautiful marshmallow. So, and you know, that's what he is to me.
That's beautiful. Yeah, we'll make sure that he knows that. Thank you. Are you excited to have your movie Modigliani now available to anyone who joins the 365 Flicks platform? And what do you think about the 365 Flicks platform and how it connects the stars to the fans?
I think it's great, because that's the future, right? It's the future. I mean, if people listen, we've had mail or fan mail from all over the world throughout the years from Modi. People discover it, and whether it's Russia, Japan, whatever it is, and it's incredible. But I think what you guys are doing, this new platform, it's the future. The streaming is the future. and you're allowing people, a new generation of film goers, of film watchers, to access stuff that they probably never knew existed. And that's a good thing. And then what that might do is, at the very least, let's say they enjoy the movie, but the bonus could be that they become inspired. But just one of them is inspired to write a story. Or maybe they have a character in history that they love, and they think, wow, Mick Davis did that, I can do that. And then boom, suddenly I have some competition. You know?
That's true. It only takes one. It only takes one.
It only takes one, but that's a good thing, though. So it's, yeah, man, you've got my vote.
Awesome. And well, thank you so much for joining us today, Mick. And please tell everyone where they can find you, what you're up to, and anything else you'd like to leave our audience with.
Well, 365 is the way to go. So you'll find some of me there. You can't have all of me.
But like, let's say if you're on social media, or if they want to find anything else that you're working on.
Yeah, well, you know, I always have, you know, a few plates spinning. I'm doing the Jack Douglas story for Johnny Depp.
Nice.
I'm doing, I just did there's a new Sherlock Holmes being done in Scandinavia, in English.
Oh, cool. With Robert Downey, is that the same?
Oh, it's a brand new TV show about Sherlock Holmes. So I'm going to direct some of those and wrote some of those.
Oh, is that with Benedict, or is that a brand new one without Benedict? Brand new. I know who they want for it, and they're talking to him, but sadly, I can't tell you who that is right now. But the girls are going to love him. Let's put it that way. Oh, I think.
And then I guess the other thing is, I'm working on something about James Dean right now. So.
Nice. I bet that's going to be nice.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
All right. Well, all the way from beautiful, sunny Los Angeles, California, writer, filmmaker, and artist Mick Davis, thank you so much for joining us today at the 365 Flicks interviews with Miguel and Jose. What else can I say, Mick? Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Miguel and Jose. Was that one?
They're all great. All right, don't go away. Let me.
The John Lennon one. That was
nice. Yeah.
John Lennon and Ozzy.
John Lennon and Ozzy. There you go.
Nice, man.